Hello guys, Naval Yemul here. So in this video we are going to see the second part of the project, that is how we can start reading our data which is in our ADLS. In the first part we have seen how to fetch the data from MySQL to ADLS by using an Azure Data Factory. Now we are moving to the second part of the project where we are using an Azure Databricks to read the data from ADLS and transform that into our Databricks and then connect it to the Power BI. So we are using Azure Data Lake as a source where we have CSV files. From CSV files, we are converting it to a Delta files or a Parquet files. So let us start. The biggest challenge is now we are using an community edition. In that community edition, the biggest challenge is mount point. So let me just talk something about the mount point and then we'll proceed. So for this, I'm using an community edition. So many folks get confused, like, with community edition can you mount your ADLS, that is ADLS Jet 2 Azure storage account to this community edition of Databricks? Yes, you can mount it. You can mount it. It means you can directly read your files from the Databricks which are in your ADLS. So when I say mount, there are various ways how you can mount your Databricks by using an storage account. So first and the simple way is by using an access key. So you can mount by using an access key. Second is you can mount by using a SAS token, that is shared access signature. Third is you can mount using a service principal. Service principal. For this you need an Active Directory, you need an app registration to go for service principal. And Azure and Databricks both recommends us to use a service principal for our mounting. But if you want to go for Azure service principal, we need an app registration. We need to register an app and Active Directory and all those things. So we are not using a service principal for mounting in this one, but I have a separate video for that which I'll be sharing you. You can find out how to mount it by using a service principal in Azure Databricks. But for now, we are just taking access key, and with the simple one, we are going for access key and we are mounting your Azure storage account to Databricks by using an access key and proceeding further. Let me log into my Databricks Community Edition. Let me start creating a cluster here on Databricks Community Edition. So I'll just give today's date 13/4 and let me click on create a cluster. Cluster has started. Let me start creating a new notebook here. So let me create a new notebook here and I'll just say this is a project part 2. Okay, project part 2. I'll select the default language as Python. I'll take a cluster as uh, the cluster what we created and let me click on create. Yeah, so now the first and the foremost thing is you need to mount your container, that is your storage account container, which is SANLY, this container to your Databricks. But we are using a community edition, we can still mount it. So I have a code here. So if you are wondering like from where I have fetched this, you can just go to Google and you can just write blob mount to Databricks. You can just write this and it will give you a documentation. Let me show here. Let me click on this. Yeah, let me convert. Okay, Databricks gives you the documentation regarding all three cloud platform. Let me click on Microsoft Azure where I am much familiar with. Yeah, so I have clicked on this. Now if you just scroll down, scroll down. Yeah, so I have fetched the code from here. Okay, just, just give me 1 second. I think from here. Yeah, I have fetched the code from here. You can see I'll do it again, maybe. So copy this and I am using it here. Okay, let me copy it here again. Yeah, so this is the same thing what I am using. Now you might be wondering like, yeah, if you look at the document here, it is saying that legacy. So what does that legacy means? So Azure Databricks or Azure and Databricks both are recommending that don't use this method. This is already deprecated or they are not in use. So you can see it is in the legacy. So if you want to mount it, you go for either here you got a documentation. So just click on it. Yeah, it is showing that how to connect your ADLS Gen 2 to the Databricks. So for that, Azure Databricks recommends us to use an Azure Service Principal. So for that, I have a video, YouTube video. I'll just share the link for this. You can easily find out and you can see how it helps us to create the mount point very safe and securely. But now, if you are talking at advanced level, Databricks has got a new feature called as a Unity Catalog. Now, with the Unity Catalog, you don't need to mount also, but that is completely different. We will talk about that later on. I have a separate tutorial on this. I'll be sharing your video. You can check on that. Okay. So now coming to our point. So we are using this one. Now we need a lot of things here. Let me go back on this documentation and just scroll down. So I have copied the link from here. You can take a Scala or you can take a Python. If you scroll down, here you have a storage account name. So you need to pick a storage account name, container name, mount name. When it comes to config key, you can see here you have something called as a config key. So there is an extra configurations. You need to just copy this. You need to copy this or this, copy it, and you can come and paste it here, paste this here. Okay, now it looks good. Now what they want a container name and they want a storage account name. So let me go back to my Azure account. In the Azure account I have a container. That container is my raw. The name of this is a raw. So I'll just write a raw here, raw. And second is storage account name. That storage account name is my SANLY. This is my storage account name. You can copy it here and paste it here. Now when it comes to mount point, so what is mount point? So when you mount your storage account, this path is taken by your Databricks. So you can give a good name. So what I generally prefer is after mount I write the storage account name and then I write a container name like raw. So all your files which are there inside your raw, we can access that inside our Databricks now. So we need to set up a configuration. So here you need to put a storage account name, that is SANLY. I'll just copy it and paste it here. And when it comes to dbutils.secrets.get, so your all secrets can be stored in this scope name and your key can be stored in key vault. But this dbutils.secret can be used only in the Azure Databricks, not in the community edition. So for this, I'll just remove all this, and after a colon, I want to pass the key. So what does that key means? So when you are having an Azure storage account, for every storage account, there will be a access key. Access key is just like your password to access your storage account. So if I click on the access key, you will be getting two keys that is provided by Azure. You can just click on this show and this is your key. So if I copy this and if I come here and just use a string and paste that key, so I have just copied that key and pasted in a string. And if I try to run this, okay, I am running it now. Let us see what happens once I run it. you should get an output called true. If you're getting an output called true, it means that you have mounted your storage account to your Databricks. Okay, let us wait few seconds to mount it. Now, if I ask you, yeah, you can see you got true here. So it means it has mounted. So how to verify? So you can use a %fsls to just list down all the files which are present in your dbfs. Dbfs is nothing but it is like a virtual storage provided by Databricks. So let me use %fsls. So these are all the file systems in my dbfs, but I am interested in this mount path. So let me just use the mount path, copy this and paste it here. After %fsls, you paste the path. So these are utilities. So these are all the mount points what I have created, but I am just interested in the mount point what I have created just now with the storage account name, that is SANLY. You can see this inside that. I know there is a container called raw. So let me write raw and wait for a second. And now you can see you got two tables, I mean two directories here. Two directories. If I go to container, if I go to raw, here you got two directories. Here you can see two directories. Now we are interested in the tables because we have moved all our data from MySQL to this table in a CSV. Just run these tables, and yeah, you can see these are all your 10 file paths. Once these all are in the text file, you can see these are all in the text file, and this is your name and so on. So once you get a path, you can start creating a data frame for everyone or every table, and then you can do some transformation and then convert it to the Parquet or to a Delta. We will talk about that. Now if I say that, suppose I have published this to a DevOps, or maybe you have that key, you have got that key. My keys have been compromised now. Everyone can see my keys. Can I say that is my storage account now 100% safe? Your storage account is not safe because your keys have compromised. If anyone who got a key with them, anyone who got my container name and they got a storage account name, they can come here and easily access everything. But that's why Databricks don't recommend us to use a mount point using an access key. That is not 100% safe. So I'll just write here, we are using a first method, that is access key. That is not that much safe. So if I show you by using a service principal, I have already done it. I'm just showing you the code how the service principal looks like. You can see this. So this is the code for service principal 1 and 2. After that, then I'll run the same code, this one. This is what we have just now doing it, that is dbutils.fs.mount. You can see this same code, but here you got something called config. I have defined that configurations here. So in this configuration I need few details like client ID, client secret, tenant ID. I will be getting that from the app registration, that is Active Directory app registration. So I, and when I get the value from client ID, I'm storing that in a key vault. So you cannot see any password now. You cannot see any password. You cannot see any of my codes. If you cannot see anything, so I can say that it is 100% safe and secure. Every organization, majorly all the organizations are using the same like method to mount it by using a service principal. So to use the service principal, you need an Azure premium account because you cannot access this dbutils.get scope and key. You cannot access this. For this, you need a Azure premium account only. But for the community edition, for the practice, you can go for the access key. You can mount it and you can start with your creating your data frame. So now let us do create a data frame from the first path. Let us do that. So to create a data frame, we have a simple code. Data frame equal to spark dot read dot, it is a CSV file. You can take a CSV file and just put a path in that. So you can copy the path from here. You can copy the path from here, copy it and paste it here. Let me execute this. It is a dot text file. Let us see what happens here. Let me use display df and run this. Yeah, you got your output here. You can see you got your output, but you don't know which table this is. There are no column headers because we have not chosen the column headers in our ADF. So you have to go back to your source and just check the column headers and start giving the column names. And if you feel that you don't want this column, you can remove that. You can check the data types of every column and then start creating all the tables again in your Azure or in your Databricks database, that is using a delta table. So we have been in the source and we can see the column names here. There are no column names here and there are no data type also. For example, if you want to check the data types, you just write df dot print schema to check the data types of every column. All will be string. All will be string because by default, oh sorry, print schema spelling is wrong. Schema. Okay, now it should be correct. It should be string because all your text files and all your CSV files by default will be a string. So now how to get a column names? There are multiple ways to do that by using PySpark. You can use 2df function or you can use with column renamed to rename each and every column. So I can write new data frame with df dot, I'll use with column renamed. In with column renamed, how it work? So it will just, you need to take first column name, that is underscore c0 in the string, in a string, and you need to give a column name. That column name you need to fetch it from here, that is order number. So let me do that. Order number, I'm doing it for one column. Let me check. And if I use dot display at the end, or you can use it in a new line, both will work. If I just use dot display and see, your column has been changed, your column name has been changed. So similarly you can do it for all other column. So let me copy this, put a slash here, paste it here. Let me take some spaces so that you can easily read the code. I'll copy this, paste. Okay, for all the columns. So if you check, this is C0, C1, C2, C2, this is column 3, this is column 4, and this is your column 5. And I don't think so you have, oh you have a column 6 also. Let me copy this. This is one way you can do by using 2df also. 2df will do it in one line only, in one line of code you can do that. We will do that for the next table. Order number, second is order date. So let me write it as a column name as order date. Third column, let me make it as a required date, ship date. So this is third column, that is required date. Don't take any spaces because we are converting to the delta. So delta means it should have, it is like a parquet only, so you don't need a spaces there. If you take a space again, it will throw an error. You need to do some settings there later on, so better you don't take any spaces here. And the third column is shipped date, and then it is showing you the status. And let me check two more columns, that is comment. 1 2 3 4 5 6, order number, order date, required date, ship date, status, and you have comment. So what is the sixth column do we have? Let me check. C0. Okay, C0 we have already done it. This is order number, this is order date, this is required date, this is ship date, this is status, and this is a comment. So here we are getting one more record, that is C6. We need to check. Yeah, that is customer number. Yeah, we need a customer number also. So let me run this customer number. Okay, let me remove this and execute. Yeah, let me use display df1, and you should get all your column headers. Yeah, you can see you got all your column headers, but still your data types have not changed. You can just check it. So you can just do df1 dot display, sorry, not display, print schema. You will get to know that all your date column names are still in a string, because that shouldn't work. You need to cast it, you need to do a casting for that. Order number should be an integer, order id, order date should be a date type, required type should be a date type, and so on. So you can do casting, or what I suggest is, let us go back and use one option here, one option, that is infer schema. So if I use infer schema option and make it true, let us see what happens. Let us make it true and put a dot here, and if I run this, yeah, now let me run this. You can see here, beautiful, with the column names changed, the data type is changed. Here you can see integer, timestamp, and you are getting string, and lastly we have an integer. Now just I'll rename all the column names, and now again I'll run this, so you will be getting your column names changed with your data type. So this is how we have read it. You can do some transformation if you want. Now I'll write this in a database. So I'll create a new database here. Like I'll write a SQL query in Python notebook. I'm writing a SQL. Databricks is giving this magic command to you can convert this cell to the SQL. So I'm writing create database. You can write schema also, both will work. Database or schema. Create database. I'll call it as a project. Let me run this. So you will be creating a new database. Inside this data view, you get a new database called as a project. There is a slight bug in this, so you cannot find it here, but maybe after few refresh you can get a database here. So I'll just write a command again, that is SQL command. Just write use project, because whatever tables I am creating, that will be stored inside this project database. Okay, I'm writing use. Now I'll write this df1, that is my data frame 1 as a table. So for reading we used dot spark dot read, but for writing we use data frame dot write, and just write a keyword table save as table. You can give various options here, and here I'm writing this table is your orders table. Let me write it as the orders table. Let me run this. Yeah, you are getting that. And we are converting this to a table, but which table it is? This table is the delta table. Now, what is delta table? I have a separate video on that. I'll be sharing you that details. You can just watch it. I have a I have explained in detail like what exactly is the delta table. Okay. So now let me, yeah, I have successfully written that with a name called as an orders. So what happens now? You can just use SQL query to start querying it. Select star from your orders table. Let me run this. Let me run this. Yeah, you can see you are writing a SQL query. Then you can see you can do further analysis and so on. Suppose I want to see the count of shipped. So you can just write person SQL and write select from orders table, and I want to group by status, and I want a column called as a status. Let me run this. Yeah, you can see you got a status as a shipped here. Yeah, everything is shipped here. I don't think so we have any other details here. And if I just want to know what is the count of that status, okay, let me put a status here, sorry, status, and let me execute this, and you can see that there is 303 shipped quantities or 303 orders. You can find out like this. You can store this in a new table again by using a simple CTA statements. Create table. You can give a table name that is count of status. As if you do this, it will create a new table with the count of the shipped status. Okay, so we will do that later on, but this is how we have read one single table that was a CSV file from our ADLS, and then we have converted that to a delta table. Let me just refresh this. I Because you will be getting a table here, a database here, and you will be getting a table. So there is a slight error from last few days. You cannot see it here. You need to refresh it, or I'll show it here only. You can just write a SQL query to write show tables, and if I run this, you will see all the tables which are registered in the project database. Or if you write show databases, and if I run this, you can see all the databases. One will be default and one will be project database, what we have just now created. You can see we have created a project database, and I can see it here. In the project database we have registered one table called as a orders table. Similarly, we have to register all these tables: 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, all 9 tables, and bring that into a delta table. So this was the second part of the project. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends. Thank you for watching. Keep learning.